Hey, it's Jen. Welcome to CreepyCulture. I was supposed to have somebody on tonight, but we had a scheduling conflict, so whenever I get that worked out, I'll have him on. He's got a really cool encounter that I would like to share with everybody. So tonight, I'm just going to do a little short video about something that happened to me. It was like 2001 or 2002. It happened to me and my best friend, and it was in New Carlisle, Ohio, which is about 5 miles north of Wright Pat, just north of Dayton, not very far at all. And it was really weird. It was in the summertime. I would say it was like June. It was a beautiful sunny day out. It was warm. We had shorts on, and we were at my house, and my kids were there. Her and her husband was there. He was fixing something in my house, and I think we went to the drive-thru, which was only 3 miles from my house on some country road. Didn't take long to get there. I think we went there to get the kids some Flamin' Hot Cheetos or something, and I think some drinks, whatever. We just went to the drive-thru. So we go to the drive-thru, and we come home, and right before you get to where you turn to go to my house, her car died, and we were in the neighbor's driveway restarting our car. So we restarted and drove to my house, and we got out, and the kids and her husband are like, "Where have you guys been? Did you guys stop at some yard sales or something?" And we're like, "No, we went to the drive-thru and we're back." So they're like, "You guys have been gone a really long time." And we're like, "Guys are dramatic. What are you talking about? We just went to the drive-thru and came right back." So anyway, we didn't know nothing, no different. So now, since my best friend, her name's Cindy, I call her Sin or Sis. I've always called her Sis, so we call each other Sis. Anyway, she's been my friend for years and years, and we talk every day. So I called her probably like 2 months later, specifically to ask her about that day because I remembered something. So I called her and I'm like, "Hey sis, do you remember that day we went to the drive-thru when you guys were up here and everybody was asking why we were gone so long?" And she's like, "Yeah, I remember." And I'm like, "Do you remember your car dying in the middle of the road?" And she was like, "Yeah, I remember." And I was like, "Okay, so my question was, if the car died in the middle of the road, why were we in the neighbor's driveway that we already passed up restarting her car?" Because 2 months later I had remembered the car died in the middle of the road, and I don't remember like restarting it or going into the neighbor's driveway or anything. So she was like, "Yeah, I remember it died in the middle of the road." And I said, "Okay, when we were in the middle of the road with your car dead in broad daylight with the sun out, do you remember seeing something hovering above the tree that was on the side of the road?" And she said, "Yeah, I do." And I said, "I do too." I said, "What did you see, Sin?" And she said, "I saw a Zeppelin." And I was like, "I saw something too. I'm not going to say it was a Zeppelin, but what it looked like to me was an airplane fuselage with no wings, no markings. It had real deep scratch marks along the bottom of it. It was really dark gray, and it made no noise. It didn't have no rivets, no nothing. It made no noise, and it was just hovering above this tree, and this tree is like 60 foot tall. So it's at the top of this tree, just sitting there, making no noise or anything. And I remember, at the time I remembered, her car died in the middle of the road, and we were both like looking up out of the windshield at this thing. Like you had to dip down to see it. And I remember seeing it, and I don't remember anything else. I don't remember how we got to the neighbor's house that we already had passed up when her car died in the middle of the road. But that's what we remember. We remember being in the neighbor's driveway, starting the car, and going home. So, and then later on we remembered, dying in the middle of the road, the car dying in the middle of the road, and that thing hovered above the tree. And then my next question is like, how did nobody else see that big tube looking thing above that tree? Like, all the kids were out playing and everything, and it was like right in front of where I lived at. I don't know how nobody else saw this thing, but they didn't. Not that I know of. Nobody said anything about it. So then we got freaked out because we're like, where were we? Like, how long were we gone? We don't even know. We don't remember anything else except that. So my kids are grown now. So I asked my kids, like, hey, you guys remember, when me and Sam went to the drive-thru and you guys were waiting on your flaming hot Cheetos or whatever, and you said we were gone too long? Did we stop at yard sales and stuff? And they're like, yeah, I remember that. And our kids are telling us that we were gone for like 2 to 3 hours. And we're like traumatized, like, what do you mean? Where was we at for 2 to 3 hours? Because we literally went to the drive-thru 3 miles away and came back. That's it. That's all we did. So, yeah, that freaks me out because I've never remembered anything else about it either. So it's been years. That's all I remember about it. That's all she remembers about it. And it's kind of freaky to think what happened to us in 2 to 3 hours, because we definitely do not have any recollection of that. So that happened to me in New Carlisle. I also seen some other stuff flying around up that way when I lived there. And then in 2006, it was like July, no, I'm sorry, I forget what year it was. Was it 2000? No, it wasn't 2006. Just a second. I just saw this. I think it was 2011. It was like July 6th or 7th of 2011, because my daughter just saw it on Facebook because she posted about it at the time, and it showed up in her memories or whatever. So this time I lived south of Dayton, about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on how fast you drive, in Franklin Township. It's also Franklin, but I lived there, and one night in the summertime I was sitting out on the porch by myself, and I saw this light coming across, the field, across the street. In Ohio we have those flat fields, and they'll have this big bunch of like trees in the middle of them. So a big light was coming across the field above those trees. So I'm like, that's an airplane, I was thinking to myself, because we see airplanes all over the place, right, Pat? And then Middletown, that's close by, they have an airport too, a little small one where people skydive and stuff, and small planes laying there. So I'm just thinking it's an airplane, no big deal. Well, the longer I sit there and look at it, this thing's like orange, and the closer it got, I was like, that is not a plane. That thing is huge. It's this huge orange looking light, and it stopped above the trees across the street in that field, and I'm looking like, that's not a plane. So I go open the front door, and I'm like, hey, I think we had a camcorder. I'm like, grab the camcorder, you got to see this. There's a big old ball out here of light across the street above these trees. So everybody comes outside, and that ball of light's just sitting there, and it's shaking like jello. Well, next thing we know, it exploded into like 7 other pieces, and there's like 7 orange lights. They're just bing, 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 bing all over the sky above these trees, like vertically, and they're sitting there shaking like jello. And we're watching them like, what in the world? And my phone won't work. The camcorder wouldn't work. The battery was drained, but it had been on full battery before that. My phone was not on dead battery. It just wouldn't, the screen just went black. So I'm like, great, we can't even record this. So we're just sitting there watching him, and they're just sitting there shaking like jello. And the next thing you know, they're moving around each other like figure eights, doing this stuff. And they did that probably for like 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden they all just gather back into that big ball, and that big ball sits there and shakes some more like jello, and then it just went out. Like the light just went out. You couldn't see anything. There was no solid object in the sky still. There was nothing. And I actually reported this to MUFON. I called them and reported it, and the lady on the phone told me that a Springboro cop, which was the next city over, he had been coming across our street, which was Pennyroyal Road, over the overpass, over 75, and he stopped and watched it, and he called it in too. So a cop saw it too and called it in. But that was really weird that our stuff quit working, and it was really weird to sit there and watch it. It was kind of weird. I didn't get freaked out by it, but I don't know what that was, but the MUFON lady was definitely saying it was a UFO. So, and she said that's why our stuff stopped working, because it was too close. So I don't know. She said something about electromagnetic field, but I'm not sure. So those are my two little UFO things, and I just wanted to do those tonight since the guy that I wanted to come on couldn't come on. But I'll get back with him. There's a time difference. That's why the scheduling is all messed up, trying to get him to talk to him and have him share his story. He's got a really cool Bigfoot story that I really wanted to share with you guys. So anyway, if you've had anything similar happen to you, comment below, or you can email me at creepyculture@yahoo.com. I would love to hear about it, especially if you've ever lost time like we did, just going to the drive-thru down the street in broad daylight. So anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.